Hello, everyone, and welcome to A New Direction. My name is Jay Izzo, and we have a very, very special show for you today. Today is Ask Coach Jay show. That's what it is today. We do sometimes we just do this show. Actually, it's backed by popular demand. I did by accident one day because we had a problem with a guest and we couldn't get connected, and so we decided at the last second we would do an Ask Coach Jay show, and it was about 30 minutes long, and people really responded to the show. And so this week came up and we had an opening, and I said, you know what? I'm going to do an hour of Ask Coach Jay. And so there's several ways that you can, a couple ways that you can actually connect with me and Ask Coach Jay to ask your questions about life, business success, leadership. And that is you can certainly, wherever you're watching me live right now, you can ask your questions. So whether you're on Facebook on my page or the New Direction page, or you're watching us on LinkedIn or Twitter or YouTube, A New Direction, you can ask your questions directly there. They show up in front of me here on the screen, and I will be able to answer your questions, but you can also call in. We've never done this before. Now, there's only one phone line, so that means if several of you call at the same time, I can't get you all at once. But if you want to call in, you certainly can, and that number is 919-670-2224. 919-670-2224. And that will allow you to get into the show, and you can ask your questions on the air while we do this live. So in the meantime, let's do what we do every week, right? One of the things that I talk about is that, we need to be working on our personal training. We are 4-part people. We are physical, mental, emotional, spiritual people, and we need to be working on ourselves on a daily basis. And a lot of people get this confused because they think that, well, what you're saying is I have to do everything that you're saying every day. Well, it would be nice if you could do that, but sometimes we can't. But we can always be working on a portion of ourselves in these 4 areas. So meaning that in the physical area, right? So evaluate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of your training. 1, my training physically is not good at all. 10, I couldn't get any better. If we're talking about that, what we're saying here is how would you evaluate yourself on that scale of 1 to 10 in terms of exercise, eating right, drinking enough water, getting enough sleep? And you may say to me, Jay, I haven't been able to get enough sleep. I've been on a busy schedule. Okay. But how's been your drinking water and getting enough exercise? And also eating right, because you can always choose to eat right. Everybody will tell me, I didn't have time to eat, so I just need to eat something, so I ate something bad. We all can make choices, okay? There's always a better choice to make when we eat. Exercise does not mean you have to go to a gym. It could mean that you get outside and you walk. It could mean that you're outside walking. It could mean that you're walking your dog. It could mean that, you're stretching in your house, in your driveway, and maybe you have a bike that you haven't used, right? And you're getting out and doing some exercise. It could be a variety of things. You're going to the mall, right? And you're going to do that if people even go to the mall anymore. But anyway, so don't think that you have to be like, oh gosh, I didn't do all these. That must mean I'm miserable. No, I mean, if you got some exercise in and, you've got sleep in and you got some water in, you've done that, right? So that's your first number. Second number is the intellectual or mental number, right? And the truth of the matter is you're in control of how much you want to learn. And really the intellectual number is, what are you learning? Are you learning anything actively to grow? Right. And here's the thing I find, and by the way, it's a really true story. Most people don't actively learn. They don't take the time out to learn something new. Learning is important to keep your brain fresh and healthy, regardless of your age. By the way, there's been research done that from the University of Iowa, this is 2015, that they compared an average of 24-year-olds with an average of 66-year-olds. And you know what they found out in learning? There's no difference. That somebody who's average 66 of age or somebody's 24 age, they can all learn same stuff, right? And so the idea that you're too old to learn something or you can't learn it or that's a choice that you make, but anybody can learn. So what I want you to do is I want you to actively learn. Do something for yourself. Learn more about your trade. I got to tell you something. I have to continually learn in this business of podcasting. I mean, we're doing something new. I have never answered a phone call. And if you want to call in and ask your question to Coach Jay, you can. It's 919-670-2224. Or you can write in your question to Ask Coach Jay from wherever you're watching live. And I know there are people watching live. And so you can ask a question if you've got a question on life, success, leadership, whatever it may be that I can help coach you through. Let's do that. Okay, so then you've got two numbers. There's your physical and intellectual number. The third is the emotional, right? And when we talk about emotional, it's two pieces. It's one, how well are you able to control your emotions? Which, by the way, we're all in control of our emotions if we want to be, right? We can let our emotions get the best of us, but the truth of the matter is we can all control our emotions if we want to control them. All right. And a lot of people don't want to hear that, because if you know that you can control your emotions, then you have no excuse when you emotionally blow it. But what we like to do is we like to say, he made me feel, or she made me feel. No one can make you feel anything. You allowed them to make you feel that way, because you had control over how you were going to be emotional, how you were going to handle that emotionally. That's the truth. And we don't want that responsibility, because then if I know that I can control my emotions, then that means that no one can make me feel anything. They were mean to me. That doesn't mean I have to feel angry. Doesn't mean I have to feel sad. I can feel just nothing, or I don't care. See, that's the first part of emotional control, right? Is knowing that you can control emotions. The second part of your emotional number is how well are you able to tap into and understand the emotions of other people, right? Because here's the thing, we don't take the time to listen because we're so eager to talk. And so we don't really understand the emotions, or we really don't want to understand the emotions of someone else. Because how many times have you heard people, I've heard this so many times in conversation, we shouldn't feel that way. Well, it's their emotions. Don't tell them how to feel. That's their emotions. So when what we do is, we have to tap in and understand the emotions, whether this is in business or in life, by the way. Right? You want to be a better manager, you want to be a better CEO, you want to be a better employer. Start tapping into the emotions of your employees. Understand where they are coming from. The more that you understand them, the better your business is going to be. I'm just telling you. It really is. If they know that you care, they're going to care back. It's just how the equation works. All right, so that's your third number. So you got physical number, an intellectual, mental number, emotional number, and finally there's a spiritual number. And the spiritual number is, what do you believe in when things go bad? What do you run to? Like when circumstances happen in your life, and life does happen, by the way, to all of us, right? What do you run to? What do you run to? Whatever you run to, that's your God. Seriously. Right? I mean, when we talk about, spiritual matters, we're really talking about the wind of the inside of you. What gives you wind? What gives you breath, right? When things don't go well, or that you trust in, or that you believe in. And some people say, well, I'm agnostic. I don't believe in anything, or I'm an atheist. I don't believe there's a God. Okay. You know what? Here's the deal. We all have faith. Every day you wake up, you walk by faith. Sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry. You do. You walk by faith every day. You believe that the sun's going to come up tomorrow when you go to bed. You do. No, people go, no, I don't believe that. No, you do. You believe it, because otherwise, why would you get up the next day? Right? You don't have a purpose. Right? If you don't have a purpose, why are you even getting up? You have to have faith that there's something bigger out there. Right? And how do you handle stress in the midst of chaos? I mean, what do you believe in that gets you calm? Is it God? Is it nature? Or is it meditation? What is it? And is it working for you? Honestly. I mean, here's the thing. Oftentimes what happens is we get caught into these situations and in our world, and we rely on stuff that just doesn't work. It's not bringing us a sense of peace in the midst of chaos. It doesn't bring us joy, right? At our very depths of our soul. So you got to find out what's working. So what's that number? So you got 4 numbers, right? Physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. It's like the air or tires of your car. If they're not all even, the car is going to veer one way or another. It's hard to drive, and the car doesn't work efficiently. The gas mileage goes down. all sorts of bad things start happening when your tires are uneven, right? Which is why you rotate them and why you want the air to be right in the tires. Same token, if they're all flat, right, you can't really run the car at all, right? So we want our tires at the right level. And so that's what we want to think of those 4 areas of like the 4 tires in your car. Do that. So this is the Ask Coach Jay show. And so you can ask me a question, any question that you have about life or whatever. There's 2 ways. You can, wherever you're watching right now, you can type in your question. I'll be happy to answer it and work through it. Or you can, we're going to try this. It's the first time we've ever done this. You can call in live right now. If you want to call in live, that number is 919-670-2224. That's 919-670-2224. And you can call in and ask Coach Jay. We've never done this before, by the way, where I've ever done a live show with a call-in. It was suggested to me, and I thought, okay, we'll take a risk and we'll do it. But you certainly can type in your questions. If I can answer your question, life, success, leadership, or something else that's going on, and you want to just talk about it, you can feel free to type it in. And as you type it in from wherever you're watching, I'll see it right here that comes across my board, and I will be able to help you work through whatever you want to work through. Today's show, of course, is brought to you by the same 2 people that we have, sponsors that we always have. Linda Craft Team Realtors, which is lindacraft.com, and Epic Physical Therapy, which is epicpt.com. If you're watching this show on DBTV, which is available on Apple TV, Samsung TVs, LG TVs, and cable companies all over the world, thank you for watching the show. Sorry it's not live for you. Hopefully, talking to the powers that be at DBTV, we will be able to do a live show like this on the air where people can call in. And so I want to thank everybody at Castbox FM who just logged in to listen to the show. So if you have a question that you'd like me to answer for you, I would have to do that. So I'm just going to go and talk about a few things. Yesterday, I was speaking to a group of young elite hockey players. And we've been working on a particular issue, and the issue is resilience. And I want to talk about resilience for a moment, because resilience is something that is in your control, but resilience is something that oftentimes we don't just do very well. We don't like getting hit, first of all. Most people don't like getting hit. I can't think of anybody who enjoys that. But secondly, when things go bad, we have a hard time getting back up. And why is that? Why is it that it seems that there's some people who seem to, every time they get knocked down, they just recover and they get back up. And then there's some people who get knocked down, they just can't get back up. It is a mindset, first of all. It is a fixed mindset. It's partially a fixed mindset. When I say partially a fixed mindset, is because on a continuum, you have fixed versus growth mindsets. And if you ever listen to any of the shows I did with Dr. Ryan Gottfredson on success mindsets, he talked about that. But if you have a fixed mindset, first of all, you don't believe that you can change, and you don't believe that others can change. It also means that when things go bad, you kind of just give up. And you may say to yourself, well, I'm not one of those people who give up. But, the truth of the matter is, you have to kind of evaluate yourself. Do you quit when the going gets tough? You quit when you don't like the way it feels? Do you quit when you're not going to win? When do you quit? Because you don't like it? See, that there's resilience, right? And it's a mindset, because a person with a growth mindset, what they're thinking is, first of all, you know what? I can change. They can change. The other person could change, and I can be part of that change. And also, you know what? If things go bad, it's okay, because it's just a minor setback, and I'm going to recover real quickly. It doesn't matter, right? And it's interesting how people get to that mindset, because they have to overcome a lot in order to get to that mindset of growth. That mindset of resilience, first of all, has been ingrained in you since you've been a child. Perhaps your parents, and it starts with your parents. And I know people hate going, Jay, why do you have to go talk about my parents? My parents loved me, and I'm sure they were, but they also may have taught you a mindset that's wrong. See, this is the first dilemma. Whenever I talk about people with, that your upbringing can have some negative side effects into your adulthood. Excuse me. The problem is that they can teach you things or model things that will affect you later in life. And you have to get to an awareness, which, by the way, we're just not very aware. I don't know if you know this or not, but we're just not very aware of ourselves and what we do. We just go about life thinking that we're right, which is another mindset we'll talk about in another show. But we lack awareness of what we really are and what we're really doing. I grew up in a home that is very fixed mindset. And it was kind of like, it was always negative. There was nothing good going to happen to our family. Woe is me, poor us. People are out to get us. Don't trust anyone. We were right, they were wrong. It was a family that I grew up that they didn't have a positive mindset. It wasn't about anything can happen. People change. People can be people. I'm going to expect good. I'm going to expect happy. I'm going to expect amazing. I'm open to listening to what you have to say. Right? And you know what? Things are going to get better, and it's going to be more positive, and it's going to have a more positive. That was not the way I was growing up, raised. Not the way I was raised at all. And for years, I lived with a false mindset of, on the outside, telling people, oh yeah, everything's good. But knowing on the inside, it really wasn't. Because the way we grew up in my family, you always made things look great on the outside. Always make things look good. When you walk into church on Sunday, you're going to have a smiley face, even though we've been fighting, the last 15 minutes in the car. Right? Even though we've been, biting and fighting at each other, and, we're crabby, and right? When we walk into church, you better be smiling. What does that teach? Right? It's certainly not teaching you a positive mindset, is it? It certainly says what you see on the outside isn't what's going on the inside. And it took years to get, and listen, it doesn't make my family bad or my parents bad. It's not. I love them, and they did the very best that they can, and they loved us the very best that they knew how. But it also means that I learned things that ultimately did not serve me well. I learned things that did not promote a positive mindset from my family, from my parents. And the more I became aware of that, that's when I had to change. And so my resilience level wasn't nearly as good when I was younger as it is now as an adult. Because I know that I can change. I know I can change. I know that other people can change. I'm a coach. I help people change. I believe in change. Right? So I say that because that first part of that mindset of resilience is understanding that, that people can change and you can change, and that just because bad things happen to you don't mean that they're bad forever, and that you can take a mindset to change them. I have a coach. His name is Bob, and he constantly reminds me, Jay, you've got to change I will to I am. And I thought about that for a second. And what he was saying there is when he says, I will to I am, it's not that I'm going to do it, I am already there. See, that takes it to another step level. You know what? We're going to come back to mindsets and resilience right after this. Feel free to call in. By the way, show line is 919-670-2224, or you can, wherever you're watching right now, why don't you drop us a question and ask Coach Jay, and I will be happy to answer your questions right here live on A New Direction. Hey, folks, Epic Physical Therapy, whether you're recovering from an injury or surgery, suffering everyday aches and pains, or maybe you're a professional athlete who's just trying to perform better at your sport, the elite team at Epic Physical Therapy will provide you with a customized treatment plan designed specifically for you. So look, when you're ready for your epic relief, your epic recovery, your epic results, don't look any further. Go to epicpt.com. That's EPICPT.com. And Linda Craft, Team Realtors, for more than 37 years. They've been helping people make life transitions. People think that what they do is real estate, but the truth of the matter is that's not what they really do. They help people make a life transition. Think about it. Every place you've ever lived, right? There's been a little bit of a life transition. Maybe there was an addition to the family. Maybe those additions left home. Maybe you're preparing for that new person to come and become your spouse. Whatever it is, every place is a transition. And for 37 years, the professionals at Linda Craft Team Realtors have been doing that. So when you're ready to make your next transition, why not call them? That's lindacraft.com. LINDACRAFT.com. And we're back here on A New Direction. I want to thank everybody for listening in. Sozi, I think it is, on Castbox FM, and everybody, I don't know who you are out there watching live on whether it's LinkedIn or Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, or YouTube. But thanks for tuning in and listening. This is a live show. And so if you want to ask Coach Jay your questions, feel free to type in your questions. I'm more than happy to answer those questions, or you can call in live. The studio line is 919-670-2224. That's 919-670-2224. Happy to answer your questions live on the air. I'm talking about resilience today, and we're talking about a mindset of resilience. And, you know, I talked about growth versus a fixed mindset of resilience. And the problem is when you're in a fixed mindset, you know, and you don't believe that you can change, or you don't believe that others can change, we get to this belief that means that my circumstances can't change. And whenever you start believing that your circumstances can't change, you can't be resilient. It's impossible for you to be resilient if you just continually look at your circumstances and say, that's the way it is and that's the way it's always going to be. You have to understand that you've got to take control of that thought, because it's that thought that's keeping you from your own success. And look, there can be a lot of people who can be successful under a fixed mindset. They can, but the problem is they will never be as successful as they possibly can be if they stay in a fixed mindset. Right? So it just happens to some people. But if you want to be truly resilient in your life, if you are one who has been, you know, I get hit and I seem to quit, or life has dealt me an unfair hand. I know people, you know people like this too. Here's how you can see a fixed mindset. See if these ring true for you, right? All right. See if this rings true for you. Well, I've been divorced and my life is just bad and I can't get out of it and everything sucks and it stinks and it's awful and it's never going to change. And so then they start taking a bunch of pills, right? Because they believe, because they can't get their mind past the circumstances, they start taking medications that, right? And then they start taking one medication and that medication has an after effect or side effect. So you got to take a medication for the side effect. And then that medication has those two together, control that. So now they got to take care of that side effect, which creates something else. I know people who are taking like 10 medications and their circumstances are not changing. It's because their circumstances are not going to change on their own. You have to stop looking at your situation and you have got to get a mindset to move beyond it. And I know some of you are going to argue with me and some of you are going to say bad things. That's fine. That's fine. But the truth of the matter is, here's what I know. People who have a resilient mindset, a mindset that believes in other people, a mindset that believes that people can change, a mindset that says, I'm going to win, a mindset that says, this is just temporary. Those are the people who become the most successful in life. They do. It is difficult to find anybody. No, I don't think it doesn't exist. There is no one in this life who has that mental attitude who's not successful in life. No one. There's no one with an attitude that says, you know what, this is temporary. I'm going to make it. I've got this. Doesn't matter what happens. I'm going to get back up. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to make this happen. Doesn't matter. Keep hitting me. I'm going to keep going. I am going to keep going because you know why? I got it. I know how to make this happen. I believe in what I'm doing. I believe in what's happening here, and I believe that it's going to get better. Find someone with that attitude that's not successful in life. I challenge you. Find somebody. You cannot find anybody who's got that resilient attitude, that gets back up again, that has a positive mental frame of mind, that continually believes that things can change and will change, and they're part of the change, and that they are the change. You cannot find anyone who has that mindset that's not successful. Not possible. Not possible. Do you think? I mean, think about it. You can't come up with somebody who just constantly believes and goes, they're not successful in life. Of course they're successful in life. They may not make the most money, but they're successful in life. They're the best people to be around. You want to be around those people, right? You don't want to be around people who are drama. They're always talking about drama, or they're talking about somebody else, right? The problem is, here's what I know, is that people who spend a lot of time talking about other people, right, are not spending enough time in a mindset that's positive. They're not spending enough time in believing that people can change. Because if you believe people can change, you wouldn't talk about them in a negative way. You know what they did? See, those are all little telltale signs that you're lacking resilience, or that you're focused too much on your mindset, or you're focused too much on your circumstance. By the way, number to call in live here if you want to ask a question, 919-670-2224, 919-670-2224, or you can type in your question if you have a question for me today. I'm happy to answer your questions. Just feel free to type them in, and I will be happy to answer your question live on the air. You cannot find anybody who's got that growth promotional mindset. Okay, now I just introduced another word, promotional mindset. All right, so what's a promotional mindset? Well, there's like the fixed versus growth mindset. There is the promotional versus prevention mindset that's on a continuum. People with a promotion mindset are generous to a fault. They're generous. They believe in encouraging others, encouraging themselves. They believe that they're winners. They believe they're going to win every time. You know what prevention mindset is? Prevention mindset is I'm afraid I'm going to lose, or I'm afraid of what I can lose. You cannot be resilient if you're focused on losing. Can't. It is impossible to be in a resilient mindset if you're worried about losing, because what you're afraid is, I'm afraid I'm going to lose something. By the way, I've been there. I've done this. I have been in a place where I've been afraid of losing what I had versus looking at what do I have to gain. By the way, do you want to know the secret to hoarders? We all know hoarders, right? We all know who hoarders are. You want to know what their problem is? Hoarder is? They have a prevention mindset because they don't want to lose anything. They're afraid to lose something. So what they do is they continue gathering stuff, right? Because it gives them a sense of belief that they're accumulating, right? And then they don't get rid of anything because they don't want to lose anything, because they don't want to prevent anybody. And so that's what hoarders do. Versus a promotional mindset, right? That says, who cares? It's just a thing. Move on. I can win. I'm going to get something else. I'm going to get something better. I'm going to give it away. That's promotion. Because when you live in a preventative mindset, you cannot be resilient. Because you're too worried about losing your stuff. You're too worried about losing things. Right? I mean, the truth of the matter is, you, regardless of how old you are, you have got to have a mindset that says, I can still win. I can reinvent myself. I can do something new. I can create something new. That's a promotional mindset. By the way, if you want to call in and ask me a question, you can. It's 919-670-2224. 919-670-2224. Or you can write in your questions right here, wherever you're watching, whether that be on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, or Twitch, or Twitter. Did you hear me do that? I did a Twitter. I could Twitter. You can Twitter me. Which, by the way, is probably going to undergo, if you're a Twitter person, you're probably going to see some changes, by the way, as well, which we'll see how that affects the show. All right, so we're talking about resiliency. How do you develop your resiliency? And this is really a mindset that we've talked about: growth versus a fixed mindset. We've talked about promotional mindset versus a prevention mindset. But what are some of the other mindsets that we have to have in order for us to be resilient? Well, one of those mindsets, one of the four mindsets that we're talking about today, is the open versus closed mindset. Closed mindset people are not generally very resilient. And here's why. Because closed mindset people can't learn from anything. They're not coachable. Closed mindset people are always right. Always. They have to be right in everything that they do because they're too closed-minded. And they're too closed-minded in order to be able to accept direction to help them change. And they're so estanched in their beliefs that they refuse to listen to anybody. And they close themselves off to other people. And their main job is to argue all the time that they're right. But they're not coachable. They're not, because they're closed-minded. They can't learn from anyone. You have to be really better than me in order for you to coach me. Folks, that's not the way. By the way, they lack resilience. Because you know why? Because they don't have the resiliency to even listen to anyone else. The truth of the matter is, you can grow and learn from anybody if you're willing. Anybody can teach you something, even in your business. They could teach you, but you have to be open to it. They don't have to be better than you. They can just coach you to be better. And you go, how can somebody who's not better than me make me better? I'll tell you why. Because they have a perspective that's not like yours. It may be a lot more simplistic. And because it's more simplistic, they actually can see things that you can't. I'm reminded, does anybody remember the show Sling Blade? And you remember the main character, whose name escapes me now, He is a guy who's got a mental challenge, mental disability, and I think he's killed somebody in this show. And he's got a little job that he's gotten out of the mental facility, and they bring a lawnmower over to him, and they can't figure out why the lawnmower won't start. Now, this is a guy in a mental hospital who's been in a mental hospital, and they say, well, we'll let him look at it, right? They've tried everything. They've changed the spark plugs. They've done everything else, right? So I think the guy's name's Carl. He opens up the gas cap, smells it in there, and he says, there's no gas. Did he teach somebody something? Did you learn something from somebody who's not as smart as you? See, that's an open mindset. Anybody could teach you anything. I've learned probably more philosophy of life from people who push a broom or a mop or clean a toilet than I can from anyone who is way above me. Because people way above you think they know it all already. I want to be around the people who are still learning, because while they're learning, I will get to learn with them. When it comes to resiliency, you have to have an open mindset. Now, some of you are out there going, yeah, but what I am right. Okay, all right. So let's say you are right. Let's say you are. Does that mean you can't listen because you can't learn from anybody? Because you're right? You know, I have friends who go, well, it's important to be right. No, it's not actually. For what? Why? To make me feel good? To prove what? Why do I have to be right? Why is it so important for me to be right? Is it really that important? Listen, I lived with this disease of being right. I used to live with it. My wife, who's been probably more gracious and merciful and unconditionally loving than any human being on this planet, put up with me for 20 years of having to be right all the time. And she called me out. She used to call me out a lot. I just didn't pay attention because I felt like I was right. But she called me out on it. And I started to realize I needed to change that behavior of having to be right. And if she feels like I am trying to be right, what she says to me, are you trying to be right? By the way, my friends get to say that to me too, all the time. Guys, if you think that I'm trying to be right here, just call me out on it. Because can I tell you something? It's just not that important to be right. It's not. Does that mean I compromise my beliefs? No. As Dr. Ryan Goffredson suggests, you know what? Soft front, stiff back. Meaning, listen intently, listen closely, but try to understand the other person, glean from it what you will, but that doesn't mean you have to change you have to compromise your beliefs. Not at all. That doesn't mean that at all. It just means that you're willing to listen to a viewpoint that's not like yours. Do you know how much better this world would be if we would have a soft front and a stiff back? Instead, you know what we do? We have, because our backs are such jelly, right? It's soft in the back. We have to have this stiff front because we're afraid that we're going to compromise ourselves. That's the truth. You want to know why people have to be right? It's because they know that they're jelly in their back. That's why. They know that they can't hold on to their beliefs. They might get compromised. The truth of the matter is, if we could all learn to listen to each other and glean the good from each other, and there is good, right? There is good if you're willing to look for it. If you're willing to glean that, this world's a better place. We don't have the arguments that we have if we're willing to listen. If we're willing to not be right, if we're willing to put aside that I don't have to be right and just listen, this world would be an amazing place. I don't believe for a moment that people are trying to harm you when they have a different belief than you. I believe that they believe that they're doing good. And they want to do good. And they believe that what they believe is good. But we got to listen. Glean the good, right? Soft front, stiff back. You're listening to Ask Coach Jay here on A New Direction. Hey, folks, listen. Epic Physical Therapy, Heidi, Andrew, Sites. Oh, man, they are great owners. Listen, I love them. They have the most cutting edge equipment, most advanced top of the line equipment. The Alter G, I always get it wrong. The Alter G anti-gravity treadmill, the NormaTec compression sleeves, the Game Ready, my favorite, ice and compression all at the same time. Listen, they also have these treatments. They're awesome. Blood flow restriction therapy, dry needling, cupping. That's just a few. Listen, when you're ready for your epic relief, epic recovery, epic results, no further, go to epicpt.com, EPICPT.com. And Linda Craft Team Realtors, helping people make huge life transitions, one house at a time is what they do. Listen, you know what? Every house is a transition in life. You and I both know that. Every place I've ever lived, there's been some transition, some good, some bad, right? But it has been a transition. You want somebody who understands how to help you make the life transition, regardless of what's going on in your life. Linda Craft Team can do that for you. You know what? They really have. They've worked with thousands of transitions, just like yours. So why not call the transition experts? Call Linda Craft Team Realtors. And you can learn more by going to lindacraft.com, LINDACRAFT.com. And we're back here on A New Direction. We're asking Coach Jay, if you want to call in, you still have time. Otherwise, I'll just keep talking here. You can call in. It's 919-670-2224, 919-670-2224, or you can ask a question. You could type it in from wherever you're at, Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, wherever that might be. Ask your question. It pops up on my viewer. And I know that we've had people come on and off. I've got Sozi is still out there on Castbox FM. And so thank you, Sozi, for listening in. And I know I've got people out there. I don't know who you are specifically, but thanks for tuning in and watching, all the love and the likes that you're giving. I appreciate it. We're talking about resiliency. And we're talking about how do we get resiliency? How do we develop that mindset of resiliency? And we're talking about being right, because people who believe that they have to be right generally have a stiff front, but a jelly back. They're afraid that if you penetrate their stiff front of being right, that they will compromise themselves. And so they have to sit. They're not coachable. People who have to be right are not coachable because they're the only ones who know how they can get better. It's true. And so they don't put confidence in people and coaches. There's a fourth mindset that affects our resiliency, and that's an inward versus an outward mindset. You know, you would think that an inward mindset, you know, which is focused basically on you. You're focused on you and you alone, right? It's about you. You is the inward mindset. It's me, my inward mindset, right? It's like, I'll give you an example how you could tell somebody's got an inward mindset, right? Because I've done this too, by the way. So you're driving down the interstate. Somebody's got their blinker on, wants to cut in, right? Because they need to cut in, right? What do? You speed up, cut them off, or do you let them in, right? People with an inward mindset, what they do is they hit the accelerator, go just a little bit faster so they can't get in. That's what they do, right? Because you know what, doggone it, I've been in this lane for a long time, and you cut over and now you want to get in? Oh, no, ma'am. No, sir. No, 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 not going to do that. I am going to, I'm going to make sure you can't cut in. That's an inward mindset. By the way, you know what an inward mindset also is? An inward mindset says, you know what? I have to worry about me first. It's about promoting myself. It's about promoting me. It's not about promoting you, it's promoting me. Outward mindset's more concerned about what do I do that helps other people? And not for my glory, but for theirs. It kind of works hand in hand with the promotional mindset, the growth mindset, and um, the open mindset, right? When you're outwardly mindseted, your concern is what are you doing to help others? What are you doing to promote others? Are you seeing others as being more important than yourself? Now, I understand there's people out there who have a danger and say, well, that can sound like codependency. I'm not talking about an unhealthy way of looking at others. I'm talking about are you focused on you and what you can get? Or are you focused on them and what they can get because of what you do? Being selfish comes natural for us, by the way. There is nothing more natural for us as human beings than to be selfish. Nothing. It's easy. Let's go back to the very first thing I said about circumstances. Right? When circumstances happen, what's the first thing you do? You worry about you. Because it's about you. You can't see anyone else because of your circumstances. So you're not growing. So all of a sudden you become fixed when circumstances go bad. When circumstances go bad and people want to offer you advice, you become closed. You're closed. Can't hear it because it's about you. When circumstances happen to you, you become defensive. Guess what that is? It's our preventative mindset. We tend to want to lock ourselves down. We don't want to open ourselves up to a possibility of anything else. So what we do is we just want to preserve what I got. I don't want to push myself out there too far. I want to just preserve what I have. Right? Because our default is generally negative, not positive. This is the truth about our mindsets. This is why people have a difficulty being resilient, is because our default as human beings is to go to the negative. I challenge you. Is it easier to think of a negative moment in your life or a positive moment in your life? Most all of you are going to say, I can go to the negative quick. I can think of all the bad things that happened. But why do we go there? Because it's our natural default. Our natural default is to go negative. It's bringing up people's pasts. It's remembering the bad things that they did. Right? We don't look for the good. The bad always outweighs the good. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter who they are. No matter how much good somebody does, the bad is always going to outweigh the good. Always. Because that's part of our inward mindset. That's part of our closed mindset. That's part of our prevention mindset. It's part of our fixed mindset. It is very difficult to overcome your natural inclination to want to go down a negative road of selfishness. It is very difficult. Because it is so easy to go negative. It is so easy to look at only the negative in people. It is so easy to look at them as, put a label. And generally you have a label for somebody that's negative. And then you look at the label, and then all you can see is the negative in that other person. That's it. Once you put the label on them, that's it. It's only the negative. That's the way they're going to always be. That's who they are. Fixed mindset. Don't tell me you're in growth when you have labels. Don't tell me you're resilient when you're really resilient when you have labels of other people. Don't tell me you're resilient when you're fixed on your circumstances and you can't promote others, or you can't see the positive in other people. Don't tell me you're resilient because you're always right and you can't learn. You may have some resilience, but you don't have resilience. That's why these mindsets are so critical, because you have to understand our natural human inclination is to not be positive. It's to look for the negative, focus on the negative, and accentuate the negative. That's what we do. Pick a person in political office. Pick any one of them. If you're on the opposite side of that person, all you see is negative. Can't find one good thing. Can't see a good thing in that person. And you've labeled them. Can't do it. You won't do it. Furthermore, you won't do it. Because if you have to say something good about someone that you've given a label to, then you know what happens? That might mean you're wrong. And that means you got to have a closed mindset. So in order for you to believe that someone can change, you have to have an open mindset. But you can't do that because you're always right. And because you're always right, you're going to have a closed mindset towards that other person, which means that you see them negatively, which means that, you know what, because you don't want to lose, right? Here we go. Prevention mindset, not promotion, which, by the way, means I'm right, which means that's all about me anyway, which is an inward mindset, which is all negative. All of it's negative. And then you wonder why circumstances are overwhelming you. You wonder why the negative mindsets are controlling you versus somebody who's got a growth mindset that looks at people and goes, I can see the good. I know they can change. I believe they can change. Or somebody who has an open mind or who has a promotional mindset that says, I'm going to be generous. I see the good in them. I'm going to win. I'm not worried about losing. I know I'm going to win. We're going to win together. Versus an open mindset that says, I know my belief is different, but sit down with me. I'd like to learn more about yours. And I really want to understand it. And if I'm trying to be right here, would you tell me that you feel like I'm trying to be right? Because I really do want to understand your perspective. Right? And then finally, it's outward. I want to promote you. I want the best for you. Come on in. I don't just tolerate you. I accept you for who you are. That's the resilient people. Those are the people with the great resilience. Those are the people who you want to be with. Those are the people who have true growth, who truly are promotional, who truly are open, and who are truly focused on the outward. You want resilience? Starts with your mindset. Well, we've done an hour. Nobody called in. Nobody wrote me a question, and that's okay. I hope you've learned something from the show. That's really what's important to me, is that you've gained some knowledge and that it changes you, because I believe in you. I really do. I believe that people can change. I know I'm one of them. I believe that you're winners. I believe that you can learn if you just make the choice. And I believe that you can be outward focused when you're not focused on your circumstances, but when you're focused on other people. You are in control of three things: your attitude, your effort, and your resilience. when you understand that you're in control of those things, that's when life is going to change. Take control of them. You can, and I know you will. I'll be back next week. I'm going to have another great show. It's going to be another great guest, and that's why it'll be another great show. As I say to you every week, everywhere, all over the world, thank you so much, and ciao, everybody.